Hey everyone, it's Ken. It's been quite a while since I've uploaded on YouTube. I've taken a bit of a hiatus, unfortunately, and I probably will take another 4-month one again. But while I was gone, roughly two major things happened: the release of 2 chapters, that being Ghoul and Steady Pulse. Both of these chapters have been oddly controversial for kind of dumb reasons. The second one is even dumber, honestly. But firstly, I want to talk about the newest chapter currently in the game, and that is Ghoul. For those who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Ghoul, and I have been for years. And when I heard that this chapter was originally announced, I was pretty excited. Some people held the opinion that this chapter did not fit DBD. I do think we have many other chapters that just don't fit DBD at all, so the fact that people are complaining about this one is just kind of ignorant. I do understand that anime isn't for everyone, let alone manga, but calling this not horror is kind of crazy, and saying that we can't have anime in our killer game is kind of crazy, considering we already have 2 major collaborations, that being Attack on Titan and Junji Ito. And if you say that those were collaborations, does not matter, well, it's still in the game, meaning this game does have anime influence. But once the chapter came to live, the killer became controversial for different reasons, particularly in their power level. This killer is very strong. They were given recent nerfs, and in general, I do think the nerfs are good. They are being very conservative, however, and I do think that's the right course of action to go, as if they nerf them too much, they'll become unfun to play, and debatably right now, they are one of the funnest killers in the game to play. Like, honestly, I think they may have dethroned Wesker. They are a lot of fun. Even with the recent nerfs, I haven't really been affected by them, as the nerfs kind of countered a playstyle that I did not personally subscribe to. There's a playstyle where you would just immediately break pallets and make up the distance with your power. This was recently nerfed by a new feature that I think would be pretty good to include with other killers, being that when you break a pallet, your power goes on cooldown, which I think is a good idea for some killers like Blight, but then other killers who don't quite have chase powers, not so much. They also changed quite a lot of add-ons, and the most deserving of so being Yamore's Mask. This add-on was crazy strong, and I'm not scared to say that this was debatably one of the strongest add-ons in DBD history. The fact that you just had so much information just for existing and getting hooks is crazy. For those who were not here during its heyday, which lasted about a week or 2, the way this add-on worked is that if you were enraged and hooked Survivor, you knew where all other survivors were. Regardless of range, regardless of how far away they were, or where they are in general, you know where they were. Because if you were enraged, they would scream anytime you got a hook, which is too strong. There was no range requirement, there was no cooldown, it was just anytime you got a hook while enraged, you would be able to know where everyone was. And majority of the match, you're gonna be enraged. If you're not enraged 90% of the match, you probably are doing something wrong as this killer. They did nerf it in a very good way, making it so it's a 40-meter range. Now, not his tear radius, which is 40 meters, but making it so it's a 40-meter range away from the hook, regardless if you have undetectable or if you're running any sort of tear radius increase perks. It would not matter. They would always be 40 meters away from the hook. They also nerfed his range, which I personally felt wasn't the best course of action. I personally feel that the grab range should have been a lot shorter, but the actual latch onto a surface range should have been untouched. But hey, I'm not an expert on this game. I don't know what they personally have for data. But I haven't seen a huge change with my playstyle, so I wouldn't really say there's a whole lot to really worry about with the range. They did nerf other add-ons while kind of changing the rarity of another add-on. There was a brown add-on. It was the fresh coffee. It was originally a brown, now it's a purple, oddly enough, and it does increase your leap speed, which I personally enjoy, but I'm not sure if it really deserves purple status. There's another add-on that should not be purple and should be iridescent, and there's also an iridescent that should be a purple. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. The red centipede should be probably turned into an iridescent. It is ungodly strong. It either needs to be changed to an iridescent or needs to be nerfed in some capacity. For those who don't know what this add-on does, it just gives you free bamboozle. Doesn't matter at all. If you're enraged, you block a window for 10 seconds. And this doesn't matter if you vault normally or if you vault with your power. It just blocks windows, which is a little too strong, and the actual iridescent add-on is kind of terrible. For those who don't know what it is the iridescent eye patch. If you vault a pallet on your 3rd enraged vault, it will break the pallet, which is okay, but iridescent? I would have to disagree, especially when we have Red Centipede being purple and being much stronger. Okay, now that we're done with his nerfs, let's actually talk about his perks, and I personally feel that his perks are weird. He follows a trend of having perks that don't entirely fit the killer. His first perk is Forever Entwined, which debatably fits him the most. The perk is, when a survivor takes damage, you get 1 token for a maximum of 8, and for each token you get, you pick up / drop survivors and hook them 4% faster. This is a very niche perk, and I do think that it works well with Fire Up, even too well during the PTB, where it would break Decisive Strike and it would not trigger. But as it is, it's not exactly the best. It does save you some time if you have something like Fire Up, but not really that good. His second perk is actually a Hex perk, Nothing But Misery. After you damage survivors 8 times, a Dull Totem becomes a Hex Totem, and you gain a 5% hindered on survivors anytime you hit them with a basic attack. This works with him somewhat, but in general, he will be fast enough to catch up to a non-hindered survivor, so it doesn't really work on him too much. But funnily enough, it does work really well with some haste perks. And lastly, but debatably not least, none are free. When you hook a survivor, you get 1 token for a maximum of 4, and when all generators are completed, for each token, windows and upright pallets are blocked for 16 seconds. Yet another endgame perk. I do think it's alright. I do think in general he has a alright perk selection, and oddly enough, I wouldn't use any of them on him. Okay, so now that we got Tokyo Ghoul over with, let's talk about the next chapter coming in, and that is City Pulse. Rayla Rose is the new survivor coming in City Pulse, and she is controversial for an even dumber reason than before Kaneki came to life. And that is, guess what everyone, hold your breath, they're trans. Ooh. The amount of Twitter people I've been seeing freak out about this, saying that this game has finally gone full woke, I have to question, do they even play the same game? This game is incredibly inclusive, and rightfully so, it should be. This game has a wide range of players who probably are LGBT in some capacity. I am bisexual, and while I personally don't identify with Rayla Rose, I am all for their inclusion, as I do think they allow people to relate to a character in one of their favorite games. And seeing the genuine happiness by the player base who have been feeling underrepresented, having an actual character represent them is great. And guess what? I don't care if I don't identify with a character. That's fine, I don't have to. But I feel like a lot of people feel like they need to always identify with a certain person, or they need to be on the same political spectrum as them. It's really stupid, honestly. Okay, now let's talk about the stuff that actually matters. Let's stop talking about the bigotry where people just blatantly hate a character because of their gender identity. Let's talk about their actual perks. And honestly, her perks are pretty strong. Her first perk is Do No Harm. When you heal a survivor, you have an extra 50% healing speed for each hook state they have, and you also gain a 3% progress increase for each great skill check hit. This perk in general is going to cause a lot of people to heal incredibly fast off a hook. Things like Solidarity, Botany Knowledge, and so many other perks that already increase healing speed will make this perk even better. But with someone like Kaneki, it doesn't really matter because he can re-injure very quickly. Her second perk is Duty of Care. When you take a protection hit, all survivors within 16 meters have a 25% haste for 6 seconds. I do know during the PTB this time frame was actually different. It was like 15 seconds, but in reality it was 6, and it says so in the patch notes. But this perk is pretty strong. I think it would be uncontrollably strong if we had haste stacking still. For those who don't know, with the City Pulse update, we'll be losing haste stacking and hinder stacking, meaning this perk will be pretty good on its own, but not able to be stacked with any other perks. And her last perk is Rapid Response. When you fast exit a locker, you suffer from the exhausted effect for 30 seconds, but when you have the exhausted effect, you see the killer's aura for 2 seconds. This was confusing at first. At first I thought it was just when you get exhausted from this perk, but it actually turns out it's when you're exhausted at all. This can be with Dramaturgy, Sprint Burst, Lithe, blah blah blah. Or you can just have it so anytime you exit a locker, use it that way. This perk will already be decently strong because we already have a lot of good R rating perks and pretty good exhaustion perks, but the thing is though, this perk can be used by itself without any other exhaustion perks and it's simply pretty decent. Honestly, her perks are pretty good. It breaks the habit of having shit perks along with 2 good ones. We have 3 great perks. And without a doubt, her most powerful perk is Duty of Care. The fact that everyone just gets a haste to within 16 meters just makes it so pretty much whenever you hit a survivor, all survivors nearby are pretty much hit without getting hit. So they have that boosted speed. Pretty much all of her perks really work well with squads rather than solo queue, which is a bad consistent habit that Behavior's had recently, where survivor perks work really good with everybody but solo queue. Now, don't get me wrong, you can definitely make these perks work in solo queue. It's just not as consistent as with a squad, which you can kind of say about any perk, but these perks are debatably way too strong in the hands of a Swift, but we'll have to see how it goes. And that's pretty much it. I do think that the controversy surrounding the character's gender identity is stupid. If you're not trans, does it really matter, honestly? I'm not trans, and I'm all for having a trans character. And honestly, this is a really stupid argument to have, because at the end of the day, these people who are complaining about the Survivor being trans probably won't even play the Survivor. They might see them, but they probably won't end up playing them. And having representation of a small group of players is great. It allows people to feel like they're being included and feel like they're being seen by the developers and be able to relate to a character. So I don't see the problem. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed this video. Without further ado, have a nice morning, night, whatever it is for you.